My name is Abe Starling.
Hi, my name is Aziza Ben Abdallah.
Hi, my name is Idara Olubanwe.
And I'm Mr. Gorlick. This is Chapter 3 of Rising Water.
And this is the cave system, Monday and Tuesday, June 25th to the 26th. Rain rushed down, blanketing the hills and filling the interlocking chambers of the cave system with water. Hollowed out of the limestone, the caves were edged in sharp rocks, with stalactites hanging down like craggy inverted pyramids and stalagmites thrusting up like miniature mountains. Where the passageways narrowed to tight tunnels, water completely filled the space, floor to ceiling. Divers were no longer swimmers gliding over the current. They were in total darkness and completely immersed, as if they were swimming through a filled, sealed tube, with unpredictable hazards all around them. Each one needed to bring his own supply of air, light, and rope. The first step in exploring a new cave is what divers call laying line. The Spanish diver Fernando Regal works in many places but is based in Thailand. He came to help out. He explained how this works. As you enter the cave, you carry a coil of rope and attach one end at the start. You secure it and carefully spool it out as you go bit by bit. The rope line is both a way out if you need it and a guide for the next diver. You are creating the path as you are using it.
In order to find the team, rescuers would need to work their way through the caves, laying line as they went. Swimming through flooded caves is an exercise in math and physics. The diver must calculate how many tanks to carry, what mix of gases is in each tank, depending on the depth of the dive, the proportion of oxygen, nitrogen, and even helium varies. And then, as the Belgian diver Ben Remenens explained, you split that total into thirds. 1/3 is the gas to get you to your goal, 1/3 is to bring you back, and 1/3 is in case of an emergency. In a complicated and flooded cave system, even tanks and math would not be enough. It would be certain suicide to send in one diver with a few tanks. Where possible, if any caverns held dry spots, the SEALs would need to stow air canisters and food. Each cache would be a landing and resupply point that would allow divers to press ahead and search the next set of caverns.
Monday, 2:45 a.m. 25 SEALs, led by Captain Anand Surawan, whose thin, bespectacled face betrayed a sense of the weight of responsibility he carried, arrived at the scene. The cave was relatively dry for much of the way to the T-junction, so the SEALs could always walk in and reach the large cavern that would come to be called Chamber 3. An hour's walk from there, they reached the T-junction, which was now under 6 feet of water. Guided by the British cave explorer Vernon Unsworth's instructions, the SEALs crossed it and reached about 125 yards into the cave in the direction of the Pattaya beach, leaving behind a distinctive piece of webbing as a marker of their progress. We went in a few kilometers and were able to enter a second chamber behind the entrance. A Thai SEAL told the reporter from the British newspaper The Guardian. In that chamber, there was an area where I saw shoes and bags left behind on the ground. We believe the students have gone further in. At least not everyone knew that Unsworth was right. The team had headed toward Pattaya Beach, even if they were no longer there. Unsworth added, if they're in the right place, they can survive for 5 or 6 days. But the water now, the flood water, is getting higher and higher, so there will be a point in time where even this cave here, the entrance will be closed. To reach Pattaya Beach, drivers would need to enter the cave and again cross the T-junction, where the two main branches of the cave system split. For the moment, that was impossible. At the junction, a rapid current of muddy water was filling the cavern to the ceiling. Even with lights, divers could not see in front of themselves, and would run out of air before making any real progress. A Thai official told reporters that divers are in dark areas that are not flat and there's mud and rocks everywhere. Therefore, for the SEAL team that's there when they dive, sometimes one tank can only go as far as 30 meters and they have to turn back. The dive and rain created 3 daunting interconnected challenges. 1. There was no way to stop rain from falling and flooding the caves, but could water be pumped out to dry the caverns? More and larger pumps began to arrive from throughout Thailand to battle the rainfall and attempt to lower the water levels in the caves. 2. The more water, the more difficult and dangerous it would be to try to dive through the caves. Fly SEALs were not trained for that kind of mission. Could anyone in the world help them? 3. If the water could not be held back or dived through, was there any other way into the cave?
Cut.
Outside the cave, more volunteers and gifts arrived. The king's sister sent 15,000 raincoats far off in Zimbabwe. Wang Kei and other members of the Beijing Peaceland Foundation, a group of Chinese volunteers who help out in rescues when they learn of disasters, were working to protect endangered animals from poachers. Hearing about the lost boys, Wang Kei wondered if they could be of use, but assumed that by the time that they got there, the boys would be safe. As reports urged him of the continuing drama and the flood of volunteers, he changed plans. He would fly back to China and then join other members of the foundation at the cave. Indeed, cave divers from Ireland to Singapore, Argentina to Canada were buying tickets, getting on planes, rushing to the caves. The swell of people from all over, though, also presented opportunities for thieves who mingled with the crowds and broke into cars. People claiming spiritual powers arrived to cast spells and commune with spirits. Even as conditions grew ever worse and the chances of reaching the boys seemed more remote, the chaotic throng at the cave mouth grew and grew. Tuesday. Heavy rains were making conditions extremely difficult. Where the first SEALs had been able to walk deep into the caverns, now the water was so high that the T-junction was entirely filled and the chamber 3 was flooding. Soon there would be so little air that even the divers would be in danger. Anyone who wanted to look for the boys would need to be able to swim from chamber 3 to the T-junction and beyond. The SEALs had never worked underwater in caves. They needed help. Unsworth knew of the very best cave divers and cave rescuers in the world, Rick Stanton and John Valantham. He sent a note with their names and that of Rob Harper from Britain, who had explored the cave system with Unsworth and the geographer Martin Ellis, urging Thai authorities to reach out to them at once. Thai government immediately agreed. By Tuesday night, Stanton, Valantham, and Harper were on their way to Thailand. The government also recognized that all this effort would fail unless it was organized and given structure. They contacted the U.S. military and requested that a team of experts come to map a strategy and parcel out tasks. The rain kept falling, and the water in the caves kept rising. As volunteers tried to load pumps into the caverns, half the equipment banged, crashed, fell, and was so damaged that it was useless. The remaining pumps could not keep pace. The SEALs could not recross the T-junction, and more people were coming to the caves. Somewhere between crisis, chaos, and hope, the desperate search for the boys continued.
Deep in the cave. Assistant Coach Eck and the 12 young men had no idea what was going on all around them. They could not hear the hundreds of soldiers or the team of bird's nest collectors spread across the hills above, the pumps going 24 hours a day at the cave mouth, the calls and prayers of their parents, the splash of the SEALs diving against the force of the current, trying to enter the cave. They were perched on a small, sandy bank, meditating. Deep in the cave. Assistant Coach Eck and the 12 young men had no idea what was going on all around them. They could not hear the hundreds of soldiers or the team of birds' nest collectors spread across the hills above, the pumps going 24 hours a day at the cave mouth, the calls and prayers of their parents, the splash of the seals diving against the force of the current, trying to enter the cave. They were perched on a small, sandy bank, meditating. Eck felt responsible for putting the team in danger. He was going to do anything possible to help them survive. Fortunately, he had experience facing adversity and managing extremely challenging circumstances. He was born in Burma, a member of the Shan people. The Shan probably originated in China and spread across what were now China, Burma, and the Golden Triangle area of Thailand. For centuries, very much like farmers in medieval Europe, the Shan had defined themselves through loyalty to local princes who in turn paid tribute to distant kings. In the 19th and 20th centuries, when map makers far away drew firm national borders, the Shan did not quite fit, and more Shan were now considered Thai. By the time Eck was 10, both of his parents and his brother had died. After 2 years of being a sad and lonely boy, Eck was taken by his relatives to a Buddhist monastery in Thailand to be raised. Not only was he orphaned, but living in Thailand, he was stateless. While he could get an education and receive limited government health care, he would not obtain the mandatory residency card that would allow him to travel throughout Thailand or to other countries. As part of his Buddhist training, though, he learned to meditate, a crucial survival skill he decided to share now with the boys. As we each go through the day, our minds are filled with thoughts, feelings, needs, all of which seem extremely important. In mindfulness meditation, a person sits calmly with legs crossed and breathes slowly, focusing on the sensation of air coming in and going out. As the meditator's attention zeroes in on breath, it is possible to watch the content of the mind. The same thoughts, feelings, needs flicker across, but step by step, as breath comes in and out, the meditator notices each one. Instead of thinking, "This is what I am, this is what I want," the meditator can begin to observe those yearnings from a distance. As Professor Johnson explains, you can see your emotions, feel them, and let them go. Western scientists have recently come to agree with the long-standing Buddhist belief that this sort of practice can be very beneficial. It can help to calm, relax, and center a person. Eck learned to meditate in the monastery and kept it up after he left. According to his aunt, Eck would spend as much as an hour each day practicing this kind of meditation, and now he shared the exercise with the team. Of course, they were hungry, scared, worried about having not told their parents about the cave trip. Meditating helped each one of them keep fear away and be in the present. They could not control the future, but they could relax their minds. Meditation was a gift Eck could give them. At every moment, they could see his cheerful face and feel his caring attention watching them, guiding them, holding them close, and offering protection. At first, everyone felt strong, but by what must have been the second day, some of the boys began to weaken from hunger. Eck counseled them to remain still, to fill up on water licked from the overhanging stalactites, and to hold off using their flashlights to save the batteries. Titan, the youngest and thinnest, began to feel dizzy and focusing on the delicious food he missed. But he distracted himself by shifting his thoughts to plainer dishes, fried rice and chili paste. Under Eck's watchful eye, even hunger could be managed.